Hello and welcome to Puppet Zone episode 6. My name is Greg and today we're going to be talking about audio. How you can get your sound projected to your audience so they can hear your show, your story, whatever it is that you're presenting with your puppets. Now if your puppet is a ventriloquist puppet and it's sitting out in front with you and you have a small audience, you may not need any kind of audio system at all. But anytime your audience gets pretty good size, filling up a room, or you move behind a stage, you're going to need something to help you project your voice. You may need something to help you play some music to set the scene or do sound effects. And so I'm going to kind of show you how I started and progressed into some of the different things I've had access to over the years. And so let's get started. The very first thing is just a simple handheld microphone. This is a Nady or Nady brand. They're relatively inexpensive, but they're good quality. We've been using these for years. Some have on-off switches and some of them don't. So if you've got somebody running your sound, you don't necessarily have to have that. But if it's just you, it's helpful to be able to turn that thing off. And so I started with a handheld microphone, and actually this little amplifier right here, an auctioneer was using it and somebody gifted it to me to get started with, and it worked out really well. Basically it's a big speaker with some volume and some tone control. It plugs in, and then you used a cable that went from your microphone to your amplifier. And then I used a mic stand, kind of set on the floor, and it raised and lowered different sizes. I'm sure you've seen those. And then you have to have a clip that holds the microphone. And once that's done, you can position it relatively close to your face. You can get boom arms that kind of will let it get a little bit closer to you. But basically that microphone is going to be hanging stationary somewhere as you perform. And so it's good. It's not great for puppetry, but you know what? It's a start. You can buy a variety of things. There are these little gooseneck bendable things that you can put on top of your stand, so you can get it moved in different positions, and those are helpful too. But again, you've got a stationary microphone that you're dealing with. The next thing that we ended up with were some lapel mics. These had long cables that plugged in, and they basically clip on your shirt somewhere, and they pick up pretty good. But again, they're not ideal for puppetry for a couple of reasons. First of all, puppets tend to move around quite a bit, and so your head is going to be moving and your volume is going to change somewhat. And also I've found that I bump lapel mics when I'm doing puppetry quite a bit, and so you kind of get some scratchy bumping noises during your performance. So we ended up with some of these little headphone microphones. They had some long cables that plugged into our mixers. And so these things just fit over your head, and they kept your microphone right out in front of your face. You've probably all seen these, but they're great for puppets because the microphone stays with you wherever you look and whatever you're doing. But it's out of the way of your hands and your movement. And so these work really well. And so we moved into these. But again, we were tethered with a long cable. And so some of them have thin cables that have little battery packs that boost your signal. And then this one has kind of a large adapter that an XLR cable would plug into. So we did that for quite a while, and then we're able to get a relatively inexpensive wireless system that gave us wireless microphones that we could use for our puppeteers. And again, it was a Nady brand, and so definitely not top of the line, but it worked great. And the beauty with this one is it was one unit, and I'll show it to you here in just a second. It was one unit that had 4 transmitters in it, and it came with 4 microphones. And so we got lapel mics, and we had wireless units that would let our puppeteers not be tethered and move around. And it's just so much easier, especially when you've got puppeteers in different places and you don't have to have wires running everywhere. And so this, it worked out really well. But again, you've got lapel mics that they're kind of get in the way sometime. Well, as the lapel mics ended up breaking over the years, I was able to replace them with headset mics that I found. And so these are just a different brand. But they had the same connector on top, and it plugged in and they worked great. And so that's what we use now for our children's church, is wireless unit with a headset microphone. So, there are a couple of other options as far as small portable things. This is a Honeytone amp, and it's surprisingly small, but it's surprisingly powerful. And it works great, especially for one person. We had a roving puppet stage that you kind of wore, and it had puppets. They were up in front of you, and so you did stuff with them. And so this thing has a belt clip on the back, and so we could put a headset microphone on and plug that microphone straight into this little amplifier, and it has a volume and an overdrive, and so it gave loud and clear sound coming from this little bitty speaker. Or you could plug an MP3 player and then you've got some music playing. And so this is great. It runs on a 9-volt battery, and you can get them on Amazon for about $40. But they're highly quality kind of thing, high quality. As I was doing magic shows and other things, I wanted to improve my sound system, and so I was going to do a school show, and I wanted a bigger sound. And so I found this system. This is a Happy amp. Unfortunately, the company is no longer running anymore. COVID kind of did it in with the lack of ability for performers to go out and do stuff. He ended up closing down. But it's a great little system because not only does it work with microphones, it also has a built-in radio. It has a built-in MP3 player, and you can play MP3s off of a flash drive or SD cards. It's great. You can run 2 microphones at a time. And so I love these little guys. And this one came with a handheld microphone. It came with 2 body packs, and it came with 2 lapel mics and 2 headset mics. And so you had flexibility on whatever you wanted to do. Now this one's not in production anymore, but there's a variety of them out there if you look at them. I know Fender has some smaller ones. MyPro has one. And I've got a MyPro, and it's a solid unit. I mean, this one's got a lot of plastic in it, but MyPro, man, it's got some weight to it. It's a heavy little thing. Not overly heavy, but it's metal, and so it works out really well too. And so you can look for something like one of these. If you want to go a little bit bigger, but still be a little bit portable, I would recommend the Fender Passport systems. I've got 2. I've got one here that's the 250, and it's a pretty good. In fact, here, let me show you what that looks like. Okay, this is the Fender Passport system. Basically, it's a portable system. It's got a handle on top. Speakers come off. That. And you've got all your controls. It'll run 4 XL microphones, and then it's got some inputs for either some kind of a CD, or not CD player, but MP3 player or some kind of audio input. And it works really well. I think this is a 250 watt. It's got storage in the back for your speaker cables and your microphone and your power cord. And then it hooks together pretty well. It is portable, but it is heavy. Not unbearably heavy, but it's got some weight to it. There you go. I've also got a smaller one that's about half that size at home, and they work really well. And you know what? You can find those used. I got mine off the Music Makers, or Musician's Friend, musiciansfriend.com. And they've got several of them, different styles on there that are used. And so those are great little systems. We've carried that one all over the place doing shows and different things. And so those are great. If you're going to be in one place, you might want some kind of a permanent setup. And so we have a permanent setup in our children's church here. And so we've got a mixer, and we've got 2 passive speakers and an amplifier. Okay, so this right here is our mixer, and so all of our microphones and our music and our computer plugs into here, and we can control the volume. And down here, that is an amplifier. It amplifies our sound, and this is that little multi-transmitter wireless microphone system. And so there's 4 wireless microphones that work with this, but it's just one unit. And again, it plugs into our mixer. And from our mixer, we've got some speakers we have hidden. Okay, and hidden back here, we've got a 10-inch speaker. It was nothing extraordinary. It was just inexpensive but good quality. And so that just plugs into, actually it plugs into our audio snake that runs one cable all the way back to the mixer. And so we have a pair of these, and they're not plugged into anything but the speaker cable. They don't need electrical power or anything. All of the amplification comes from the amplifier. Your other options are getting powered speakers, and then you don't have to have an amplifier. Or you can keep your passive speakers and you can get a mixer that has an amplifier built into it. So you have some options. It really depends on how much you want to spend or what you have and what you can work with. If you know somebody that has a sound system, whether they have a small band or it's a hobby, they might let you borrow it to try it out to see what works best for your setup and what you're going to do. If you're just now starting out, I wouldn't sell the farm to buy an entire system. I'd start small and kind of work my way up. You know, you can use a Bluetooth speaker and your phone to play some music. You can get an inexpensive microphone and some kind of little speaker to get you started. In fact, some of your Bluetooth speakers that you can find out on the market, you can plug a microphone into them, and you can also Bluetooth the sound. So that may be a great way to start. You're dealing with one speaker that has some of that functionality built into it. But start small, figure out what you need, and then you can grow and get bigger as you go. Like everything, the bigger it is, the more it costs. But if you've got some places in town that sell used equipment, especially if you can get some kind of warranty on them, that's a great option. All right, well, thanks so much for tuning in. I hope this was helpful, and we'll see you next time here on the Puppet Zone.